Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Yuen Long villagers helped rescue a domestic helper and a baby who were kidnapped in broad daylight. Media tycoon Jimmy Lai and 2 others are found guilty in connection with an unauthorized assembly last year. And the compulsory use of the LeaveHomeSafe app for restaurants took effect today. Villagers in Yuen Long have helped rescue a domestic helper and a toddler who were abducted on the streets of Port Lam yesterday morning. The shocking incident came to light when the villagers heard the helper screaming for help.
Kidnaps are very rare in Hong Kong, especially in broad daylight. But this was exactly what happened here on Victoria Road, in the upscale neighborhood of Port Lam. A 39-year-old domestic helper and a 19-month-old girl she was looking after were abducted at around 8:30 a.m. yesterday. The toddler is the daughter of a Japanese businessman who lives nearby at Residence Bel Air. The girl and the helper were on the way to a preschool when 2 men stepped out of a vehicle and dragged them away. They were driven to Tai Wo Chun, a remote village in Pat Her, and locked in a container filled with construction waste. The pair eventually escaped through a small opening, climbed onto the roof, and yelled for help. Nearby villagers alerted police at around noon. This villager said she came after hearing someone call for help in English. When she arrived, she found the toddler's hands still tied, while at the same time another man fled on foot. The helper and the girl were sent to hospital and have since been discharged. Police launched a land and air search for the suspects. A 42-year-old man was arrested early this morning in Kwu Tung. He was taken to Western Police Station for alleged kidnapping. He was caught while returning this 7-seater he rented. Forensic officers were seen collecting evidence this afternoon.
Media mogul Jimmy Lai and 2 others have been found guilty of taking part and encouraging others to take part in an illegal June 4th vigil last year. They will be sentenced on Monday. Yuen Long reports.
Jimmy Lai, Chow Hang-tung, and Gwyneth Ho, who are already in prison or in custody, were escorted to the Wan Chai District Court this morning to hear the judgment. Judge Amanda Woodcock convicted them on all charges. Lai, who started the now-defunct Apple Daily, was found guilty of encouraging others to take part in an unauthorized assembly. Also convicted on the same charge was Chow Hang-tung, the former vice chairwoman of the Hong Kong Alliance, which had organized the annual June 4th vigils. Chow and former Stand News reporter Gwyneth Ho were found guilty of knowingly attending an unauthorized assembly. In a written judgment, Woodcock said Lai had arrived in Victoria Park that day with the sole purpose of participating in the press conference and candlelight vigil. Clearly, he was there to support the Hong Kong Alliance, she said. Woodcock noted that reporters and photographers followed Lai around, adding that his presence was a deliberate act to rally support and publicity for the unauthorized event. As for Chow and Ho, Woodcock did not mince words in criticizing their defense, such as arguing they had lit candles in their personal capacity. Their evidence was frankly nonsensical, the judge said. Woodcock said they were at times evasive and abstruse, and were provocative and argumentative. She deemed it was beyond reasonable doubt that they were guilty. Mitigation and sentencing will take place on Monday. A total of 26 people were charged in relation to last year's June 4th vigil, which the authorities had banned due to social distancing rules. 21 of them pleaded guilty. 16 were jailed and 3 given suspended sentences. 2 others will be sentenced along with Lai, Chow, and Ho. The other 2 who were charged fled the city. Yuen Long, HKIBC.
Beijing officials have again lashed out at former lawmaker Nathan Law, who is set to give a speech at the Democracy Summit hosted by the United States. The exiled activist has been labeled a clown and, in the words of one official, will be crucified in the pillar of historical shame.
With just 10 days before the Legislative Council elections, Beijing officials have become increasingly vocal. A seminar with the theme, See Through the Truth of Democracy, was held this morning by the central government's two official bodies in the SAR, the Foreign Ministry Commissioner's Office and the Liaison Office. Liaison Office Deputy Director Chen Dong started off by pointing out that in its colonial days, Hong Kong had no democracy. Hong Kong's room for democratic development has greatly expanded since the handover, and the progress is for everyone to see, he said. Chen accused the United States of being behind the street protests, which sent Hong Kong into a downward spiral. China, on the other hand, is a bona fide democratic country, he proclaimed. Liu Guangyuan, the top Chinese diplomat in the city, again took aim at former lawmaker Nathan Law, who was set to deliver a speech at a democracy summit hosted by Washington. Without naming names, Liu called it ironic that a fugitive on the run was invited to the summit. Clowns who smear Hong Kong and China will be crucified on the pillar of historical shame, he warned. Foreign forces which try to interfere in the electoral polls will be met with a powerful response, Liu stressed.
Starting today, most Hong Kongers must use the LeaveHomeSafe app if they want to eat in a restaurant. The government says the policy offers better protection against COVID, but some eateries think it's a little too much. Yuen Long has the latest.
Rejected by a restaurant because he didn't have the LeaveHomeSafe app. This man said he forgot today was the day the new rule took effect. I'm so busy, he said. I might download it later. Who knows? In one of its more significant anti-epidemic measures, the government ordered everyone to use the LeaveHomeSafe app when entering eateries. That also goes for most social venues, such as bars, party rooms, game centers, and gyms. Only those aged 15 and under, 65 and above, and the disabled have the option of filling out paper forms. Authorities also canceled Type A restaurants, which did not enforce any measures, such as staff vaccinations, and had to close at 6 p.m. These eateries have to switch to another category and ensure that customers use the contact tracing app. This restaurant manager in HKIBC said they had previously stuck with Type A because most of their customers were elderly residents or young students. Now when they come in, we have to ask them how old they are, and there's no guarantee they will answer truthfully. I also think it violates their privacy, and it's frustrating we have to do this, she said. Taking to the airwaves this morning, Deputy Director of Food and Environmental Hygiene Diane Wong said during the early stages of the new policy, enforcement officers will be more lenient to people who might not be familiar with the app. She added that over 90% of Hong Kongers aged between 15 and 65 have a smartphone, and it won't be hard for them to pick up the habit. Yuen Long, HKIBC.
Shenzhen has rolled out emergency measures to save water as the city suffers its worst drought in its history. This comes as the East River, a tributary of the Pearl River, registered a record shortage. Hong Kong and Guangzhou largely depend on water from the East River. Shenzhen has urged its 12.6 million residents to reduce consumption. The city will also use less water for greening and construction activities. Overseas, New Zealand is embarking on a bold policy which it hopes will eventually make it entirely smoke-free.
We want to make sure young people never start smoking, so we are legislating for a smoke-free generation by making it an offence to sell or supply tobacco products to those aged 14 when the law comes into effect. As they age, they and future generations will never legally be able to purchase tobacco, because the truth is there is no safe age to start smoking.
The government aims to enact a new law next year, under which those born after 2008 will never be allowed to buy cigarettes during their lifetime. Health officials say other anti-smoking measures have done little to stomp out the habit. The government has not indicated how it will enforce the new rules, but says the ban will save 5,000 lives a year. About 12% of all New Zealanders above the age of 15 smoke, while the rate among indigenous Maori adults is 29%. And coming up after the break, Chinese astronauts conduct a science class from space.